Hey guys, Josh here, and Progress Orders is a game that won't appeal to everyone. It's different, a bit confusing, not necessarily bad, but I played it for 6 hours, and I wanted to share my first thoughts in this video because as of right now, there is not too much information about this game. Hopefully this will be a helpful video. If it is, you can leave a like on it, and let's start by going over what is Progress Orders. This released on April 9th for Nintendo Switch and Steam. It's $20 US or 26 Canadian on Steam, about $1 extra on Switch, which is where I got it. And it's the latest game by Hakama, the studio from Yoshifumi Hashimoto, who created the Rune Factory series and last year released El Rentaro's Wanderings. According to its Steam description, is the guild... Wait, that's not right. I think you're meant to read the logo as part of the description. Progress Orders is the guild where many adventurers meet. Your unique story begins as you support your companions as the guild master. It doesn't tell us too much. Let's scroll down to the About section, where we learn that you're looking for a grandpa. You can choose between a male and female character. There's a 3D rendered guild. Complex dungeons progress automatically. You can befriend 3 men and 3 women, and that is pretty much it. Based on that and what was shown in the trailers, I did not expect a lot going into this game, but let's dive in together and find out how things are really like. This is the title screen. You may already recognize the art style of Minako Iwasaki, who used to work on character designs for the Rune Factory series, more recently El Rantro's Wanderings, and as always, her characters look amazing. I start a new game. I can choose between the male and female protagonist. I keep the default name of Alto, and my adventure begins with this scene where a Cyclops is trying to kill me, but then this guy called Just arrives just in time to save me. Everything is voiced over in Japanese. You can tell they put a lot of work there. The illustrations look great, but the entire story is in this visual novel style where you just have the character portraits and you read a lot of text. Personally, this is not my favorite style. I have the same problem with El Rantro's Wanderings, where I really tried my best to follow at the beginning. I think the story is somewhat interesting, but over time the dialogue gets a bit tiring and I end up dropping out of the story. So that is something to keep in mind depending on what type of player you are and if you like visual novels or not. I don't want to spoil too much for those who would want to get this game for the story, but basically as you're looking for a grandpa, you find yourself with a power that lets you see from other people's eyes and communicate with them via telepathy. Thanks to these powers, you end up being recruited in a guild where you will get to use them to assist party members by sending them on adventures and giving them instructions. One way to do that is during combat. Right after the first cutscene, you're thrown in this battle against the Cyclops. A few pop-ups are teaching the basics, but you're pretty much left on your own to figure out most of the details. For a quick overview, it is a turn-based system where characters have predetermined commands, and you can spend some points to change up to 20 of these commands per battle. Things are split into phases, so the first line of commands is executed, then the second one, then the third, and you do that loop again and again until the battle is over. There is a lot of useful information on the screen. You can see the monster's weakness or strength at the top. You will definitely have to keep that in mind if you want any chance to win, but I will say things can feel overwhelming and it can take some time to get used to how everything works. It's also in this very old school style where you don't get to actually see your characters on the battlefield, you just see the monster you're fighting, and each attack has a tiny visual effect. Just like with the story scenes, they opted for a cheaper format. I get it, it's not necessarily my favorite. I don't mind it if the combat mechanics are interesting enough to make up for it, but unfortunately I don't think they are. There is a bit of strategy, so you have to keep in mind the monster's weaknesses. Buffs and debuffs play a big part as well, but I just felt like things were not engaging enough, and I typically like turn-based combat. I also have to tell you that during my very first battle, the game froze, which was not a very good first impression. I had to start over from the very beginning, but other than that, I've had no bugs or technical issues in my time playing. Most of that time was spent in the Legion Guild, which is the only 3D area where you can actually walk around, or I should say run around. You're very fast in this game. It took me a while to get used to it, but in the end, it is a good thing as you will have to do a lot of running back and forth. The Legion Guild is kind of like a small town where there's a tavern, a library, a garden, a blacksmith, a mine. And you interact with these different facilities in order to upgrade them or obtain materials. So let's talk about gardening, my favorite part of any game. You interact with the garden, a menu pops up where you select what crop you would like to grow, and there it is planted, and it will start growing by itself. When it's ready, you just press one button, get ingredients, plant something back. Eventually, you do unlock more fields and crops, but just so you know what to expect, there is no actual gameplay of planting or watering, no season to plan or think about. It's really just a menu with a tiny visual element in the world. That is another thing that disappointed me a little bit with progress orders, is that they're positioning this game as a management game. So I was hoping to be able to customize the guild a little bit, or at least see it evolve visually, as that is a big part of a lot of management games. But here the only thing that does change visually is the garden. Another activity we have is fishing, and it works in a pretty similar way. You have 3 areas, so there's a pond, a well, which I thought was funny, I like that idea, and a river. You go to a fishing spot and then you select one of 3 fishing methods. So there's one for calm water, one for dark areas, and one for rapid flow areas. When I first saw these 3 methods, I thought that this was going to be a bit technical or special, but not really. There is no minigame, the only button you press is to select the fishing method, and they all use the exact same fishing rod and animation. The only thing is, each area has a method that works better and will give you unique fish, so the calm water method for the pond, the dark area one for the well, and the rapid one for the river. The whole time I was playing this game, I felt like I was missing something, and maybe I was, as the tutorials were not very clear, but I couldn't figure out really what was the point of choosing the fishing method. I don't see how it's adding any strategy or fun to the game. You just go to whichever fishing point you want, select the obvious, better suited fishing method. You can fish as much as you want, and each time you get some fish that can be used, for example, to order food at the tavern, which gives buffs to your party members. On top of gardening and fishing, there's also mining, kind of. So you go to this mine cart and choose what layer of the mine you want it to go to, and after a while, it will come back to the surface with ores that you can pick up. The ores can be used at the blacksmith to order weapons and armors, and from what I understood, they work kind of like food, giving you temporary buffs. You don't really equip them, and honestly, it is a bit hard to tell if something is in effect or not. When is the buff ending? None of it is very clear. I'm probably making it sound like I don't know how to play. I promise you I tried my best to figure things out. I streamed for 3 hours, then played 3 hours just by myself, taking things slow. But this game is confusing. You will definitely have to be ready to put in a good amount of time if you want to understand everything. One thing I did figure out near the end of my time playing is how you upgrade facilities. So when a party completes a quest, we'll talk about quests later, you get these coins. You can use these coins at different facilities to upgrade them, or at least that's what I thought at first, because there's an upgrade menu where you see things like new layers for the mines, new recipes, permanent stat increases for your characters. So during my first few hours of playing, I kept spending my coins on these upgrades without noticing any improvements. Well, it turns out you don't receive upgrades directly, but experience points. Once you have them, you then need to open the guild menu and actually assign the experience points to the facilities for them to upgrade properly. Each type of point only works for one specific upgrade, so it's not like you have a choice of where to assign them or anything like that. You just go through the menu and you can't even see how many points you need or have at a glance. So you click on each upgrade one by one, it tells you if you can do it or not, and then you go to the next one. I'm feeling like I have a good grasp of this mechanic now, but I still don't get the reason why they make you go through all of these extra steps that don't add any gameplay or strategy. Some of the information you're being given is either misleading or confusing, and some things seem to have no purpose other than just making you press more buttons in more menus. Speaking of menus, that is what most of this game is. You do run from one place to the next, which is supposed to be one of the game's selling points, but it is always just to open different menus. In the end, this is a management game, and don't get me wrong, I quite like the idea of a management game where you actually control your character, but I wish they had taken advantage of that to do a bit more. If we had to do just something for farming, fishing, mining, I think that the concept would have made a lot more sense. Plus, the whole reason why we're in this guild in the first place is because we can use telepathy, so how come do we have to physically go to all of these shops all the time? But now, let's talk about that telepathy. You have different parties in your guild and you can send them on quests via the world map. Some of these quests will progress the story, others will get you items, some have special conditions, and you have to find the party that will be the most qualified. Expeditions are happening in the background, so you can keep running back and forth the facilities in the meantime, but when a party encounters an enemy, you get this pop-up. You can either leave it up to them and they will have a chance to win the fight based on their strength, with a maximum chance of 80%, even if they are, let's say, 10 times stronger than the enemy. If you don't want to risk it, then you can intervene, and that's when you actually get to do the battle yourself. If you win, the quest continues. If you lose, the party comes back home with absolutely nothing, not even a single coin or point of experience. I found this whole thing a bit annoying because some quests will have a lot of fights where if you always leave it up to the party, they risk losing no matter how strong they are. And on the other hand, the combat is really not the most exciting, so intervening every time can get tedious. You can also track your party members when they're in a dungeon, the same dungeons that they describe as complex on their Steam page. Surprise, they're actually not complex at all because the characters move automatically. Sometimes it can be good to keep an eye on them if they've been failing a quest and you want to figure out what's happening exactly, but there isn't much you do as the player in these dungeons. Upgrades, quests, and most things in these games take some time, but you can speed time up. Even skip entire months if you want, and I don't think the days and months really matter. The only thing I've noticed is that at the end of the month, you pay a maintenance fee to your guild. I couldn't find a way to see what the exact cost is, but if I have any coins left on the last day of the month, it takes them away from me. So I always try to spend everything before that happens, and honestly, I could not figure out what was the penalty for not having enough coins to cover the maintenance fee. Could not figure out the benefit of paying the maintenance fee. I felt like no matter if I paid it or not, there was no noticeable difference, and there is a tutorial for this mechanic in the game, but it is extremely vague. No matter how many times I read it, I have absolutely no clue how this mechanic is supposed to work. Maybe it all makes sense once you get it, but the game is really bad at explaining anything. At the moment, there are basically no guides or explanations anywhere online. I think I'm someone who can usually understand things fairly well on my own, but I am struggling with this one. So after a few days or weeks, depending on the quest, if your party succeeds, they will come back with coins, items, and experience. Sometimes they will find accessories that can be equipped for extra stats, not to be confused with the weapons and armors that are temporary. Then they will rest for a few days and you'll be able to send them on another quest after. I found that most of the main story quests required quite a bit of grinding for your party to be strong enough to finish them, so a lot of this game is sending your party on easy quests to level them up. Then you run around to upgrade your stuff in your facilities. Once you're ready, you send your party on a main quest. You get to see a little bit of the story and you keep going. Speaking of story, when it comes to the characters, outside of one member per party like our friend Just, the rest are just random, which makes it hard to care for them, but also have two parties that have the same magician guy. One is called Drago, the other one is Oscar, but they look exactly the same, have the same abilities, and for me, that breaks the immersion. For the characters that are unique, you can talk with them in the guild. Sometimes they will unlock new quests, some of them also have more unique stories that you get to know. These are the 6, maybe not romanceable, but the ones that you can get closer to. And I'm sure you can get attached to them, but at least for me, they are not enough to keep me hooked to the game. I think that if you're heavily into visual novels, or let's say you quite enjoyed the story in El Rantro's Wanderings, you could maybe want to try this one. Same thing if you're really into the old school JRPG combat, but even then, we already have the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters, Dragon Quest, so many old and new RPGs available that have a fun combat, plus exploration, an engaging story, other interesting mechanics. So it's actually really hard to recommend this game for the combat or RPG elements, because it doesn't offer much that you can't find in other games. If you're in it for the management, personally I love management games. I also don't think this one is a very good pick because running around to interact with the different menus is a tedious gimmick. It really does not add anything to the game. The mechanics are not well explained, it's so confusing, and I feel like there's actually not that much management going on. It's more so just grinding, waiting, and pressing buttons in menus without too much thinking. As for the life sim elements like farming, fishing, or mining, there is really no gameplay there. Honestly, I don't know who I would recommend this game to. Right now, reviews on Steam are mostly negative, even the positive ones don't do a great job at selling it. But I recommend you have a look for yourself, as surely there is a very specific audience who will have a good time with this game. Personally, it's not something I will go back to. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed, as it is quite close to what I expected it to be. After all, if we go back to the Steam description, they really told us everything there, but they could have made it better with clear tutorials and slight improvements here and there. It's not all bad though, the art and voice acting are good, the story could be interesting, but for me, that is not enough on its own. There is certainly some level of quality, it's not a garbage game or anything like that, but I also didn't have much fun. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about progress orders? Did you play it? Were you as confused as I was? Or is there something I just completely misunderstood? If you liked learning more about this game from the creator of Rune Factory, then you might be interested in this other video where I take a look at 3 games from the creator of Harvest Moon, who in a very similar way left Marvelous to create his own studio, and not everything is great. Leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.